should have seen us gunning, passing the folks along the road just as they were standing. All the lads and lasses there, all with smiling faces, gunning along the Scotswood Road to see the bleeding races. We went to bleeding races, 'twas on the 9th of June 1862 on a summer's afternoon. We took the bus from Bambras and she was heavy laden. Where we went along Collingwood Street, that's on the road to Bladen. Whoa, me lads, you should have seen us gunning, passing the folks along the road just as they were standing. All the lads and lasses there, all with smiling faces, gunning along the Scotswood Road to see the bleeding races.
How's the bacon, Steve?
How's the bacon, did you say?
Welcome back to Black and White Banter, you lovely ladies and gentlemen. And it is Black and White Banter live for what is now the fifth time. I hope all is well on this lovely bank holiday Monday. But of course, all is well on this lovely bank holiday Monday because Newcastle United have scored another hat-ton of goals. And Newcastle United, it looks like, might be playing in European football again. Which is it's just great. Supporting Newcastle at the moment is great. The goals are flying in. You name it. It is all going swimmingly at the business end of the season. We've got our suits on and we are ready. So, ladies and gentlemen, you might be wondering what is going to be on this show tonight. So let's just give you a bit of a sneak peek of what
Fan revelations and much, much more.
Right. Who's your favourite?
Coming up on tonight's show, we discuss another big win that might mean Europe again, ole ole. We discuss the performance of one man in particular and whether he should stick around to do the Macarena next season. Some interesting opposing fan revelations and much, much more.
Right, who's your favourite Newcastle player?
Oh. Tell the truth, I don't even know any of them.
How dare he? How dare he? Right, but before we get into all that lovely stuff, and there's so much to talk about with a few cheeky surprises, which my two guests don't even know about just yet. And on the topic of guests, let's get my first person in the building. Someone that is becoming quite familiar on these shows now, and just quite familiar all over the place. It is the one, the only, the call dog in the building. Let's get you on. There he is.
How are you doing, Matthew?
You, sir?
I'm very well, thank you very much. How are you?
I'm good. If you can't be good after a result like that at the weekend and a 4-day week, when can you not be?
Amazing result. There's lots, I'm sure, to talk about on that subject of that nice travel down there and travel back, and I was already on it. I might have had a cheeky something on that gave me a cheeky return, and I might have done quite well out of that cheeky return that I had the cheeky thing on in the first place. I'm trying to mention the fact that I might have put something on something and I'll end up like Sandro Tonoli and I'll end up in banned from this channel for a year. So
just to confirm to all viewers watching this tonight, we do not condone or promote gambling on sports in any way, shape, or form. Thank you.
Who said I was gambling? It was a cheeky thing I'd done, Matthew. That's all. I had a nice cheeky.
Your sound's not as good as it normally is tonight. You're a little bit quiet tonight. A little bit quiet.
You're joking. Is that any better? If I get closer, is that better?
No, it's a little bit creepy though. Right. Before we dive into the football stuff,
I'm up for this tonight.
Good. Before we dive into the football stuff, and there is a hell of a lot of football stuff to talk about, let's get my second guest of the evening, which again is someone who has been on this before just a week ago. So let's get Mr. Lee in the building.
Good evening, everyone.
Lee.
You all right?
How are you, sir?
I'm not too bad.
Good. That's he's got. I actually don't have a beer tonight, so I'm letting the side down. I know Colin doesn't normally anyway. I'm on the Coke Zero, but that's because, and we'll talk about a little bit in this video, the Burnley Benny Hots have still hit me right. Let's see who's finding the messages.
Hold on. Lee. There's a reason I don't drink anymore. I've drank with Matthew when we've been in America and in Europe, and he's a really, really bad influence.
I agree with that.
Italy, when we went out there, I'm still suffering now. There's no two ways about it.
I do not know what he's talking about at all.
Liar.
But I was led down the Lancashire bad path on Saturday, which we'll get in a second. But anyway, yes, comments, ladies and gentlemen. I did forget to mention this at the start of the last show, the last one I was on with you. I remembered. Anyone who would like to ask a question that gets discussed a little bit more widely at the end, rather than me brushing past comments, just put hashtag BWB with your question. I prefer juicy ones. Don't care whether they're about football or not. If you want to ask Colin what those books are behind him and what his favourite one is, that might be a slightly boring question, but you can ask away. It doesn't have to be football, but we will discuss them at the end and I'll flick through. So, who have I got in the building so far? We've got an evening from Leslie. That's what I like to see. Geordie Ashley's in the building again. What up, Matty, from some dude? Some dude, please let me know. Or from Houston. That's what I like to see. That's what I like to see. Hello from Nashville. Yes, we are going international. Love it. Absolutely love it. Yes. And just to clarify, someone has just already commented, I'm watching the Man United match. If anyone would like to keep me updated on that, because everyone on this should be one of these guys tonight, as I certainly am.
So if we support the palace, and that's the way we like it. We like it.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, that is us tonight. We are all Palace fans. So yes, I don't have it on in front of me because I would be heavily distracted if I did. Please keep me updated what the score is as we go through. Right. Sorry, I'll start with you, Lee, just because you've just joined the stage. What were your thoughts on that result on Saturday, first and foremost?
In the end, it was a bit more comfortable than a lot of us felt, didn't we? Thought it might be a sort of 2-1 sort of game. A bit like the Sheffield United game. The opposition started a lot better, but thankfully it didn't last as long. Once got the first 10 minutes out of the way, we just seemed to find our rhythm, get control of the game, and after that, we never really looked in much bother.
Was it a case for you of? I guess we all a bit worried as Newcastle fans when it comes to playing anyone. Was it a case of like what we were worried about? We should have been confident going into that we were going to hammer them. Why were a couple of us a little bit tetchy going in? Because the result ended up being exactly how we maybe should have expected it to go. If you look just on paper.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of drubbed into us through many, many years of false hope and general disappointment that we are going to make a mess of everything whenever we can. So yeah, we're still a bit on this early stage of this new era, aren't we? So it might take a bit more bashing out of us, the natural pessimism, but yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
And over to you, Colin. What were your thoughts? Obviously, you went down on Saturday. Obviously, nice, lovely short trip down to Lancashire. What were your thoughts on the game itself?
I think you worked it out. The first 12 minutes they came out. Mr. Company must have said to them, "Get stuck into them, just go at them, try and score first, and then work out on that." And to be fair, that they played a decent game for the first 12 minutes, but they just fell apart after that. I just thought we played a tremendous game of football. I thought Anthony Gordon was superb for myself on Saturday. But man of the match, and I dare say it out loud, I don't dare say it out loud, it was. There's no doubt it was Isaac. But what was the interesting part of the game for us, more than anything, was when the ball was taken off Wilson for the penalty. I found that quite interesting because that's funny. I look at things slightly different. Everybody's looking at something else, and I'm focused on that, and I'm thinking, okay, is he a little bit cheesed off? Because afterwards, he must have been thinking, I would have scored that. But then Isaac went and scored shortly after that, so it put it all right, didn't it? But yeah, and it was great as well. For me, it was great to see my favourite player of all time for Newcastle is Peter Beardsley. Always will be and always has been. Just for his skill, his way he's played, the dynamics of that man was unbelievable. But it was nice to see Wilson get at the goal scoring records and jump into second place.
Well, we are going to talk about that very shortly. It's like you read. Just to clarify, anyone watching, we have not discussed what is going to be being discussed on this show, but you have a habit of diving in with something I'm about to start talking about in a bit more detail.
Come on!
Yeah, I think I kind of just mirror a little bit of what you guys have both just said. First 10 minutes was cagey, but as I put on my last word blog that I managed to get out last night, despite being quite hungover, you can't go into any Premier League match expecting to all be plain sailing. But going back to those nerves we had going in, Burnley were always going to. I don't think from the first minute they were going to be absolutely awful. Like, they were the home team, they are fighting for their lives, and then you just like to hope that the quality shines through. And it was just a satisfying match, wasn't it? It was one of them where it was just like, once we got our rhythm, everything started flowing. Everyone looked like they were having a good time. Jacob Murphy, who I'll touch on a little bit more in this pod. Jacob Murphy was loving it. Bruno was pulling the strings. He got in on the action with a goal. Sean Longstaff got in with a goal, it was just one of them. Apart from the late goal we conceded, which, it didn't mean anything, that was probably the only thing that took away from a fantastic... Wait, you could maybe argue Alexander Isak's missed penalty as well. So now that I've got your thoughts a little bit just on the game itself, again, I am trying to keep my eye on comments. Oh, we haven't got many hashtag BWBs coming in yet. Come on.
What's interesting, though, Matthew, is I've mentioned my favourite player of all time. It'd be interesting to see the people it's on now to who's their favourite player of all time. It doesn't matter if it's now or in the past. I think it's interesting to see that. I like the fact somebody's put Terry Hibbert. It was a great shout, that. Yeah, but I'm glad to see somebody's agreed with me or Beardsley.
There's your curveball. Best player of all time. There's your curveball. Yes, right. So let me just get some lovely photos of the screen, because I do like to come prepared to these things now, as we all know. So let's talk about, for me, a big talking point from Saturday, anyway, in my head at least, maybe not for some fans, is a certain, a bit more in suspense, Mr. Callum Wilson. I want to know. Yes, Mr. Callum Wilson. Now, obviously, he's come back into the team now. Before the match even started, were you a little bit surprised that he'd gone with two up top together? Or
did you hear that, Matthew?
Sorry.
Palace winning 1-0.
We love you. We love you.
We love you.
You play. We follow. We follow. We support the Palace. And that's the way we like it. We like it. Oh.
That'll ding dong do. That's brilliant news. Yeah. Anyone just
is that right, Lee? I can't see that. Have you seen it, Lee?
Yeah, I've got it on the telly.
All right, excellent.
Wonderful. Yeah, you keep us updated on that. Yeah, so
we just ran through the middle of the defence and scored.
When the team news came out on Saturday, were you surprised to see Mr. Isak and Wilson both in the same side?
Who first there? Colin, myself or Liam?
Yeah, I'll let you go.
I'll start with you, Colin.
No, not at all. I think it was interesting. Is it the first time they've actually played from the start? Is the front three the way they played it? Because we played three up front, wasn't it? With Wilson, Isak, and Gordon. Is that right?
I don't have those stats, but I'm pretty certain. I want to say I'm pretty certain. I'm pretty certain we've started Isak from the left-hand side in quite a few matches last season, and Callum Wilson was playing through the middle. So I don't think it's the first time we started together.
It was the first time this season those two would start together.
Yeah. I think what was interesting about the team sheet when you asked that, apologies, gents. I think what's really interesting, though, was it was probably one of the strongest benches we've had for a while, with people coming back from injuries. And we're only, we're 4 games left of the season at that point, of course, naturally only 3. But it's really interesting that we had Pope on the bench. We had Big Joe on the bench, and it was nice to see that back there, really, for me. But overall, I was just over the moon to see Wilson and Isak play, because I think I might be on that board of where I think that possibly is Wilson going to be good enough next year? But that game showed me that he's a completely different player to Isak. But what's really interesting for me is they played well, but can they do that every single game? I'm not quite sure, not 100% sure. But I was happy with the lineup, definitely.
What about you, Lee? Did it catch you off guard a little bit, or?
A little bit. I mean, I thought he might mess the team about a bit more, like with the back-to-back games coming up next week.
Mm-hmm.
Thought that's where he might feel about bringing Wilson in from the start, that sort of thing. But I was quite pleased to see it. I definitely plays at full time. It's that thing, though, isn't it? I mean, obviously, without having a backup centre forward beyond them, it's a bit of a risk if you are. I certainly don't think it's something you do regularly, normally. I mean, you do it from time to time, but you need to have one of them in reserve, really, because if, heaven forbid, they both go down the same game, we're struggling. But yeah, it's when it's the right game, then absolutely, it's definitely a viable option.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, I thought Callum Wilson's performance on Saturday was absolutely fantastic. I think he showed, to me, he's not currently playing when he is fit, and I know that's what we'll get onto in a second. He's not playing like a 32-year-old striker, in my opinion. When he is sharp, he's very sharp. He's pacey. He's always running the channels where needs be. And I know in the system we play, he doesn't need to as much because that's what we've got the likes of Anthony Gordon and Jacob Murphy and what for on Saturday. But he's a very, very good, capable striker. And, I've got a couple of visuals. I mean, some of these stats, I mean, his XG when he's in the team is only second to Alexander Isak, which when you think, I know it's obviously off minutes played and Wilson hasn't been in the team very much, but it's still very, very impressive that Isak, who everybody's talked about as having one of the best XG scores in the league, which I haven't actually shared that for this season, he's not even far behind that number when he has been in the side. That's what he's contributing. And then I look back at last season when he did play a lot more in our Champions League campaign, there's only Erling Haaland who had a better XG score in the Premier League last year. And these are all very impressive numbers. And I know some people watching, and yourselves included, might not be a big believer in XG. I like XG as a statistic. I've learned it a lot more. I know it's a very on-trend one, very much like saying the low block is rather than parking the bus. But these are good numbers. Go on, sorry, Colin.
What's if I'm going to look really stupid and old here, what's XG?
Expected goals.
All right. Why can't they put EG, expected goals?
It's like, it just looks nice.
It's my bad instead of saying it's my fault.
You what, sorry?
Is it a bit like saying it's my bad instead of saying it's my fault?
Oh, well, everyone knows my thoughts. Anyone who maybe is watching this who doesn't, on low block. I hate low block. It wasn't a thing. It hasn't been a thing all of my life supporting football. Why people now suddenly can't say park the bus and they think it's... I heard someone say mid-block the other week, whatever the hell a mid-block is. It's just getting normal. Yeah, it's getting a bit ridiculous. So just some of the moments I've got on screen, I thought it was a really polished performance. His link-up play, this is him. I haven't got onto his goals in terms of image yet. This is when he set up a chance for Livramento in the first half. He chested the ball down from a ball from Hall, took it upon, took a man on, and then slipped Livramento, and Livramento should have scored. That just shows for me his link-up play is still there as a footballer when he's fit. He did some dirty work for Longstaff's goal on the touchline when he bullied the ball back and then slipped it back to Murphy, who played Longstaff in for a very important second goal, can I just say. At that time of the match, it was very important. And obviously, after that, the floodgates felt like they opened a little bit. And of course, having Isak and Wilson on the pitch just offered for me. Burnley just could not cope with that many people in the box. And obviously, Isak misses the first goal. The shot, it gets saved, and Wilson's there just to mop that up. And you don't see that much in the Premier League anymore. You really, really don't. And what might lead me on to... Here we go, Colin. This is what you ruined for me earlier on. What Callum Wilson has managed to do there in the process is go along. I mean, I will go on record and say that I do think this chart. I don't want to speak bad of my own team. I do think this chart's a little bit sad. a little bit like that no one's even got anywhere near 100 in the Premier League since Shearer's. And, Shearer retired in 2006. It's a little bit of a sad chart that the numbers haven't gone over 50. But that being said, you've just alluded to it, Colin. Peter Beardsley, I wasn't lucky enough to be able to watch him play live. I've seen enough videos. When I was growing up, I was obsessed with watching season review videos. The man was a genius. He's gone above him. Shola's next in the list, Shola, which I think is quite funny. But yeah, he's in some good company. And
he is. Do you know, sorry, Matthew, do you know what would be really interesting stat to see? Is because it seems to be a big thing at the minute. It's not just like, especially Anthony Gordon. I'm sure everybody's listened to the Gary Neville Anthony Gordon interview. Fabulous it is, and they always talk about not just the goals, but they talk about the assists. And I tell you what, if there's one man on that list there, it must be in the high top 3 of assists is Peter Beardsley. He must be up there. The amount of goals he helped the likes of Andy Cole score, for instance, was just unbelievable. So
yeah, I'd be curious
to see the assists as well.
I'd be very curious to see goal contributions. That's a stat that I use quite a lot, which is obviously a mixture of both. So I don't know whether you'd be able to even get an all-time goal contribution chart for Newcastle. That would be interesting though to see. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. The big question for me is with regards to this man, and I thought his performance on Saturday was brilliant. I thought that's what he was pretty much. He was allowing us all to do that on leaving Turf Moor on Saturday. Do the club have a big decision to make in the summer? And I'm curious to get, and everyone in the comments, please let me know. It's a pretty simple question. I don't want to turn this into too much of a, well, it depends if we get this, depends if we get that, because I know that might form part of the argument. Would you keep Callum Wilson at the football club next summer? I'll start with you, Lee. Next summer, not next summer, next year. Next
summer. It's that thing. If someone comes in and say, "Hey, we'll give you like 25 million for him" or something like that, it's like that'll be hard to turn down. Because given how much we know how good he is when he plays, he scores. But I think I saw that he's missed 48% of the games since he signed for Newcastle, which is a shocking amount of football to miss.
It is.
So he's a very good centre forward, but you've only got him for like half a season, and you don't even get to choose when. So is it worth, if you do get a very good bid put in for him, do you just cash in and maybe go for a young gun who's might not be quite as keen in front of goal at the minute, but who could develop into that player in a few years' time and potentially take that role going forward?
Well, I've got 2 questions for you based off that, what you've just said. So the first question would be, because I know we are chucking hypotheticals and you have to, we don't know how much we get for him. We don't know who's looking at him. I know Atletico Madrid, were talked about in January, and I don't buy into speculation. I hate reading the newspapers and that, but we were told that Wilson actually fancied that move. I mean, they were still in the Champions League at the time. That kind of makes sense. Something a bit different for him abroad. I'm sure his family might have fancied a couple of pints of Estrella down the beachfront, going to watch his matches in Madrid. If the fee for Wilson in the summer was only, I know you've mentioned 20 to 25, what if it was 12 to 15? Is that a different
that's for you? To the point where you think it's maybe not quite worth it. It'd need to be enough to make you think, yeah, we can do a lot with this money. But when it's like that sort of under 15, it's not quite enough for me.
And over to you, Colin. Obviously, first question: would you keep him?
Do you know, I think it does your head rule your heart here. I think my head says as a squad player, but not as a player who would start every single game. I think my answer is yes. I would probably keep him, but the thing is, I've said this a few times, Matthew. We've had lots of discussions, and I'm not quite sure these players all get on with Wilson. I'm not quite sure if that's actually there. I mean, said the other week when Wilson scored and there was Bruno walked off the centre circle. He didn't even go and congratulate. You seen the ball was taken off Wilson on Saturday. And I could be reading far too much into that. But, you know, rumours around the club, if there was any, would there be that the players don't, they like him, but they don't think they can work that well with him? I'm not quite sure. It's a real tough question, this, because I noticed somebody in there says, get rid of Miggy and Longstaff. Again, these players can be good squad players, because it's going to be really hard for us to bring people in with, you know, the rulings of how much we can spend. So on the back of that, unless you're going to make a good fortune on Wilson, he's still got 2 to 3 years of football, possibly Premiership football left in him. So is it worth keeping him for that? As we bring somebody else in, and, you know, they become the takeover from him, a bit like, I suppose, Livramento is with his name's gone, but he Trips. You know, is that? I don't know. Yeah, but and then there's Amy saying for something very similar. You know, her and her dad Lawrence both said get another young striker in, but to me that's keep him and get a young striker in, because the young striker would have drop in. So that's my thoughts. Long-winded, I'm sorry, but I'm so on the fence with this. So on the fence with this one.
This is the long-winded show. If this was a show, I'd quite like to think it was like a storm. You wouldn't want to go outside because it was that windy. But on that one, and I know Lee, you've mentioned it, and Colin, you've now just mentioned it, and I know you said Amy in the comments, which I'll share on the screen now. Bonjour to both of you, by the way. Get another young striker in. Now, I totally agree. That's what we need, but I think there's another side to look at getting a young striker in. So Alexander Isak is our main man. We all expect him to start next season. Of course, he's one of the best strikers in Europe, if not the world. But if we eliminate someone like Callum Wilson, who knows the Premier League, he's been there and done it, we bring a young striker in, you would assume from around Europe, whether it's La Liga, whether it's League One, whether it's the Bundesliga, whether it's further afield, that player is going to be very, very raw. So is there an argument there, if we're going to really compete next season, like a lot of us want to, that we're basically going into the season with one striker and one who's going to take a long time to find his feet? And I think from a squad depth perspective, is that not a little bit risky? I don't know.
I think it's risky. I think it's risky getting rid of him, because I think you've nailed it. On his experience, where else would you get that experience? Because if you go for that experience, you're going to go for age. So to use a man with that experience, to bring a youngster, and we say a youngster, I'm 55, Callum Wilson's a youngster to me, he's 32, but to bring a 22 or 23-year-old in from a European club and coming in, or even another Brazilian, for argument's sake, to bring them in, they need to know the ropes, and they need to see how a professional who's been doing it for a hefty, 12 years of the Premiership now, is it? Was it 20 when he came in to the Premiership? Then you've got to look at that. But yeah, God, get in, Man United just had a goal disallowed.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I used to be shouting. And when you play, we follow. If we support the Palace.
Sorry. Yeah, it's a very, very interesting one, this, for me, because from what I'm seeing, it is split in opinion, Callum Wilson, and I think we can't be too clouded as maybe I feel after, because I thought his performance on Saturday was very, very, very good. But I also, and anyone in the comments who wants to batter me for this, that's totally fine. I also think Callum Wilson, when sharp, when firing, is still one of the best strikers in the country. I think he proved that last season. He got his World Cup call up, which was great for him. I know he didn't get much of a sniff at the World Cup in Qatar. I still think there is not many better goal scorers, but he's not just a goal scorer. As I've just shared those photos on the screen, his link-up play is quite good. He still has a bit of pace about him, but I'm going to go full circle. We can't also, the conversation has gone now where we can keep saying if he stays fit. We all have to assume that next season, if we keep Callum Wilson around, he will do his hamstring, he will rip his pec, he will be making himself a tuna sandwich in the kitchen, and he'll drop the knife and he'll hurt himself somehow, and he'll be out for a long time. We have to assume that, don't we?
We do. Lee, do you mind me? I'm going to jump in. Sorry, Lee, I'm jumping in ahead of you in case you're going to say out. So Gary V's made a point. I don't know if you want to bring that up on screen there, and I'll tell you why. And I like his point, but my disagreement with him is you bring him in, if another 12 to 18 months, Wilson, he's right, is probably going to be worth nothing more than 8 million if you're lucky. You might not even get anything for him. But the 20 million we paid for him and the goals he's scored, he's paid the 20 million pound back in my eyes.
100%.
But the next 12 to 24 months could be helping bedding, and we'll say this again, I found that I repeat myself, bedding in a new striker to work alongside Isak and having Wilson there as backup for that. He's still going to be worth keeping at the club for that particular reason. And if I was in Eddie's shoes, I would probably be thinking on them lines, because no matter what, you look at down the road, how bad they are at the moment and how ridiculous the Mackhams are and how bad they're playing, because they don't have enough aged players with experience in their squad. But look at our squad. We have the likes of Callum Wilson in there who has that experience. You have the Dan Burns who've got that age thing and what they know about the Northeast because they love it. So you have to have that. It's a mixture in a squad wherever you are. And we sort of have that. For me, we do. And yes, we have to buy to keep improving, or else we won't compete to one day win the Premiership. But for me, the more I talk about this, the more he has to stay another 1 or 2 years.
And Lee, with regards to where you think, which was going to be my last point on this, because again, it's a difficult one. And to be fair, the comments that have been coming in, generally keep. If Wilson wants to stay, then yes, Leslie said. Marcus, keep Wilson. He's a sniper. Did I get any more responses? Maybe a couple more further up. Yeah, I haven't had that many replies back on that one. But all I was going to say is it fair to say that we don't really even think that Mr. Howe and Mr. Tyndall and Mr. Maynard and Amanda, who will be asking Howe and Tyndall what their thoughts are on this, assuming that Wilson is happy, we don't know. I know, Colin, you said you think his body language is suggesting he maybe isn't. That could be the case. He might be just ready for a new challenge now. He's been with us a while. Mm-hmm. Do you think they've made their mind up, or do you think they are literally just seeing whether he can get through these next 3 matches fully fit and fully ready to go? And then, or is it a case of our owners maybe seeing who we could get in first? Do you think there's any decision made or not?
I mean, to be honest, I reckon they'll have a number in mind. There might be contact going on behind the scenes we don't know about, where people are inquiring about him. I dare say they will have a number in mind. So if someone rocks up with a certain amount of money, they'll be open to a deal. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, I think any good team will always be looking at, well, what if we get rid of him? They'll have basically people lined up for most positions. So potential signings will have a short list on most areas of the pitch. So if he does go, then they'll leap into action. It's that thing, because if we do want to sign players, we can't just endlessly spend we have to sell.
Yeah,
in the current,
we can't just keep players.
Yeah, you can't, and you can't just let them run down the contracts until they're worth about £1 million, and then let them go when they're about 38 or whatever. You do have to occasionally. Every good team, like Man City, did it when they were on the up. They did occasionally sell decent players, never their sort of crown jewel players, but good players. They'd recycle these players, while they've still got value, and replace them with players of maybe a similar level, maybe even a fraction lower, but who have the potential to exceed that level, and they'll gradually, incrementally grow over a number of years. But yeah, at some point, you don't want to sell a player who, as you say, is as good a striker as him, but you might have to. If a good offer comes in, then it might be
right. Final question, because we have been on the Wilson topic quite a long time now, and I do want to move on to some of the stuff. Final question, yes or no? Final hypothetical, because I love a hypothetical. I might make that a phrase on a little video I can put on the screen. Hypothetical scenario of the show. A club comes in on the 1st of whenever the window opens. I always forget, 1st of June. Club comes straight in with £18 million cash up front. Are you both accepting, yes or no?
Is it going to be no?
No. And what about you, Lee?
I'd want over 20. I know it's not far off, but it's just in my mind that's
right.
20 is the floor.
Let me know in the comments. 18 million, 1st of June, one lump sum, yes or no. Let me know in the comments. By the way, please keep hitting that like button. I always forget to ask, and people probably get sick of me saying that I forget to ask. I sound like a broken parrot who's had too much Red Bull. It does help. It does help this go to a couple more eyes whilst it's actually going live. So please whack that little likey loo. The next person I want to talk about from Saturday, which I think generally speaking is probably going to go under a lot of people's radar. A lot of people's radar because, there was a lot made about Wilson's performance. We touched on him. There was a lot made about Gordon. I know you've already mentioned him, Colin. You said he was absolutely brilliant. He was here, there, and everywhere. Isaac got amongst it. But I think this man deserves a fair bit of praise from Saturday. And he's come in. We all know there's not one Newcastle fan out there who thinks Jacob Murphy is a world beater. There is not one Newcastle fan out there who thinks Jacob Murphy is going to be with the club long term during this project. I don't think anywhere, unless you may be a family member or a very, very good friend. But I think on Saturday, he's proving, in my opinion, that yes, Almiron's back. He's going to be chomping at the bit now to try and get back in this team. Jacob Murphy still offers us something. He likes to whip the ball in. He's pacey. He's hard-working. And yes, the opposition on Saturday were not very good. No disrespect, Burnley. Not that there is one single Burnley fan watching, but I did meet some very nice Burnley fans on Saturday. They were lovely, lovely people. No disrespect to them, but it wasn't very good opposition. But I mean, some of his contributions, he's pulled back for Longstaff. I didn't think, it's not an amazing pass. That's not the point here from me. I thought what we saw with that was a very, very quick spot and a good spot for Longstaff charging into the box. It was very, very instinctive to pull that back to him. He's crossed for the first goal. Almiron does not offer us that on the right-hand side. And there's so many people saying that we need a right winger in the summer. And I agree. We do. We've got Gordons and Barnes who are desperate to be on the left-hand side. That's both their favourite position. Right-hand side, we just a bit meh. But Jacob Murphy, I mean, I'll start with you, Colin, on this one. Did he impress? I know you didn't mention him at the start because obviously Anthony Gordon, he's a star player. But did he impress you on Saturday, or was he someone who maybe dropped off your radar a little bit or not?
No, he did impress us because I think, like you've already mentioned, he assisted in 2 goals. I think what was interesting after the match, I think he said that they've got a good link-up player with him, Longstaff, and Elliot Anderson. He said the 3 of them link up really well when playing together, which was interesting. I wonder something that Eddie works on. I think what I like about him, most of the match, he's very unselfish. He's very unselfish, and he likes to give. He's definitely a one who likes to supply for others to score because that's his job. Sometimes he can be a little bit greedy, but but he only went under the radar, Matthew, because it was such a good game. It was hard to pick out the best player of the game for me because everybody had a good game. Apart from Matt Ritchie when he come on and put out that corner for them to score that goal, that did make me laugh a little bit, but we were 4-0 up and then 4-1. I don't blame Ritchie, it's just one of them things. But overall, everybody had such a really good game. It was hard to pick him out because he wasn't man of the match. But in the forms of stats to help it out with the goals, he should have been close to that, but he did play extremely well and he ran them ragged. I don't think you said something there before. I have a slight disagreement with you, Matthew, which I think we were honest enough that we can be, but I don't think Burnley were that bad when you think how they came out for 12 minutes. They just couldn't cope after that period of our midfield. They just couldn't cope. I thought our midfield played really well, but they're a bully boy type of team who are not scared to go in the tackle. I mean, there's times that referee for both sides just didn't play the game. He was giving so much away, but then others will say it's a nice free-flowing match. But overall, for me, Jacob Murphy's the one you have to keep for next season, definitely. The age is for him as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that was going to be, because obviously I know I've just asked you what you what your thoughts, Colin, were on his performance on Saturday. My next question, and Lee, without you talking about exactly the same thing, was more going to be, this. I don't want to make this the transfer show by any means, but the performances of these players on Saturday have opened up these conversations. Is Jacob Murphy someone you would keep around as that squad player? Because you just mentioned it earlier, Lee, that we can't keep everyone. But the other side of the fence to that is we can't get rid of everyone. It just wouldn't work. I think some people expect us to. I see lots of reports about, like Murphy's got to go, Richie, Kraft, and some people have such a long mental list. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. So what's your overall thoughts on Murphy, especially going into next season?
Well, he's clearly a player that Eddie Howe trusts. Will always... it's 2-0 to Palace.
Get in! Come on, Palace! Come on! Sorry, Lee.
He's clearly a player that Eddie Howe trusts. And he keeps on... I mean, he'll have the odd game where I think, but more often than not, he's a very solid performer. And as we saw, the weekend, he got 2 assists. He always follows the instructions that have been laid out to him by the manager. He's always doing exactly what's wanted from him. And sometimes he even gets stuck at wing back as well. And he can do it. It's not his strongest position, but he can do it. So he's versatile. So, yeah, and given that if we were to sell him, I doubt he'd be commanding sort of 20, 30 million.
70 million.
although I wish he was, but he probably, if someone came in for him, it'd be that sort of 10, 15 million sort of bracket, I think. Mm-hmm. So I'd keep him around. He's a Newcastle fan. He's been at the club a while now. He's a perfectly good squad player to have. And in 4 or 5 years' time, he probably won't be at the club, but certainly for the next year or two, he's perfectly worth his place in the squad, I'd say.
He's someone who Eddie Howe has got the best out of, and I know it's a lot of players, because I remember Jacob Murphy when he came into this club, he could not hit a barn door. We just kept on loaning him out, and I think a lot of us, when he came in, it was for a decent transfer fee. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, so I won't try and quote how much he came in for. It was definitely over 10 million as far as I remember.
It was about 40, 50 million, I think.
Yeah, it was a decent fee, and we were all quite excited. We knew he was a Newcastle fan. We knew he was a pacey player. He was a winger. He was exciting, and he just never got going. It's someone that Howe's got the best out of. But it's interesting what you mentioned, that going back to what players realistically, if we are to get rid of some, there's an argument there again that there's not many that would command a fee. Now, Jacob Murphy might fall in that club of he commands a fee. So I like Jacob Murphy, and none of you have mentioned it. Can I just say? Can we just discuss that no one in that squad will want to get rid of Jacob Murphy, because he seems the best crack out of any other player in that squad. You can tell when they go on a night out, Jacob Murphy is first up on the dance floor. He's getting the Jaeger bombs in. He's the last one out. And he's the one that everyone goes back to his house for the afters as well. He just seems such a joker. I was really, really impressed with his performance, and long may that continue. So now that Almiron's fit, would I be right in thinking you would go into Brighton on Saturday? Now we've got a nice week to rest as well. Would you continue with Murphy in the team, or are you looking at Almiron coming back into the fold? I'll start with you, Colin, on that one.
Listen, I think, this is controversial. Mickey's had his time for me at the club. I honestly think, and don't get me wrong, he's been very loyal. And it was great going across America when Atlantis, in the Mercedes-Benz stadium, when there was so many of the fans supported Mickey, and when he went off, they all left. That was really interesting to see. But Mickey's done his bit for us. No disrespect to him whatsoever, because he could still do a class job elsewhere. I think he'll end up going to Europe or somewhere. I don't think he'll stay in the Premiership. But he's a one-sided player. For me, he can only ever hit with the one foot with his left, isn't it? So for me, honestly, he's got, I think, definitely Murphy over Mickey all day long. Mickey wouldn't even be the squad player for me anymore. I think he's not lost anything. I think the squad's getting better than him, personally.
I don't know if you agree with that. I've never been Miggy's biggest fan. I never will be Miggy's biggest fan. I know he works I know he's got a smiley little face and he's like the cute little brother in the family. I understand all that. I know he's had purple patches where he scored good goals for us that were important last season. But there is no way you can tell me that a winger, any sort of winger in the Premier League, should have the sort of stats that Miguel Almiron has. I mean, he's played since he signed for us in 2020. I think he's registered 6 Premier League assists in that time as a winger who plays so many minutes for us. Lee, I'm assuming your answer might be the same. If it's not, because if you were to now suddenly promote Almiron, you're going to be going up very much against 2 anti-Almiron opinions there. But feel free, that's what I like.
Well, no, I mean he does a role for the team, doesn't he? Like you mentioned, the run, the work, and he's a sort of player to. I mean, for next weekend, I'll go same again. Murphy on the right. He's got 2 assists. You can't drop him. But Almiron's good to it'll be good to bring on like with 15 minutes to go, just tired defence, not the sort of play you want coming at you when you've been playing for over an hour. But yeah, as you move forward, I mean, he is the sort of player who might still command like a £20 million plus fee. So if you get that sort of money, then cash in and improve.
Lee, I'm not laughing here. I'm laughing at a bloody lunatic who's hosting this show, who's just put on the screen. Is that a green screen? No.
Because it made me laugh, that's why. It made me laugh.
Just to make me look intelligent.
It would be really weird if you chose a green screen of a library. I'd be a little bit concerned about you to be told that.
Yeah, not St James's Park or anything.
There's a real book, right?
I don't really want to know what books you read because I've got no doubt there'll be some very, very dodgy ones in there. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them pulls down as a door handle and you've got some weird chamber behind that bookcase.
I can't.
Right.
I'd have to kill
We're going to come away, as I always like to do before we move on to another topic. We're going to come away a little bit from the serious stuff, and we are going to discuss a very, very good look-alike, to the point where I couldn't really tell the difference at all during the match on Saturday. I did not realise. Did you know that Anthony Gordon was so short in comparison to Dan Burn when they were stood next to each other? I did not know that he was that small in standing next to him.
He's 6'1". He's not 6'7".
Well, on the photo on the left, Colin, he looks. I didn't realise Anthony Gordon was only about 4'5".
Yeah, but to be fair, Dan Burn's on. I have to say that.
Oh, I think it's just gone over someone's head in this chat a little bit there. Never mind.
I've tried that spitting double of him, and that's cool.
God, it took you a long time, Colin, to get in the room on that one. I think you were still thinking about your bookcase. Yes, sorry. I like to come away from the serious stuff just very, very quickly. So, as we talked about last week, I don't want to talk about it too much because it was a more in-depth chat last week when I spoke to you fine gentlemen about the upcoming fixtures of other teams, how we see the European chase going down. Now, I think the new conversation, first and foremost, is can we catch Tottenham Hotspur, Ange's boys? Because I feel like every Tottenham fan right now is a little bit like this.
Nervous, but I'm starting to get a bit shaky, you know? I'm a little bit worried.
They can see that we're chasing them and the points difference. So I'll start with you on this one, Colin, because I can tell that finger's twitching the lip. You're desperate to get your words out on this one.
But you haven't read my hashtag BWB because this is one of the things I want to talk about tonight. The fact is, I was talking to a few lads at the weekend, right? And an ideal situation as a Newcastle fan, as I sit here in front of you all now, is we finished 6th, Chelsea 7, and Man United in 8th. That would just be an awesome finish to the season for me to see Man United get nothing next season because the fans are so full of it. The big question you're asking is, can we catch Tottenham? I think if you look at the running we've got, I genuinely sit here and I think we can't get beaten our last 3 games. I know a lot of people think Brentford is the hardest of the 3 games for us. And I know Man United's there, but I think we've proven against them we can play so well, even with 6 defenders, and beat the Buggers. But Brentford's the game that we may slip up on, and unfortunately, that might be the game. It puts us into 5th, but I'd rather be strong enough in myself to tell you 6th is the position we're staying in, and that's where we will finish it this season.
Question on that one, because I find that a little bit strange, Colin. Maybe you've said that to me before. Why, when you look at our fixtures, with Brentford pretty much, when they are safe, Brentford aren't even in the relegation conversation. Why is it Brentford away the last game of the season that you think we might slip on one out of the 3 fixtures?
I think we have to be a little bit careful because they might think once we beat Brighton, once we beat Man U, which I know I sound ultra confident about this. It's because I am. Going into Brentford, I think that it's a small ground. It's a compact ground, a little bit like Burnley's was. I thought that was very compact, that ground. I just think if their fans get behind them, and we've only got 2,000 travelling down there, I just think that we may struggle against that. And the pitch is just not smaller than what it is at St. James's, for instance. I don't know, mate. It's the one game. I still think we'll get to it from it, and probably a point. But I think realistically, there's 9 points that we're going to take. I know I'm speaking in riddles here, but I'm just worried about the Brentford over the other 2 games. I am. I know.
Stop speaking in riddles, will you?
That's wallpaper.
Lee, over to you. First question. Now that we are in this position where we are looking up, which again, I'm going to say it, and I'm going to play the role of Parrot who's just had a Red Bull for the second time on this, potentially all across all these lives I've done. It is absolutely remarkable from Mr. Sir Eddie Howe, Sir Jason Tindall, and all the players involved that we are now in a position where we are chasing down 5th place Tottenham, and we've pretty much had 15 injuries at one given time this season. Absolutely incredible. But now that we are looking up, Lee, are you thinking more about Spurs, or are you still keeping an eye on the Chelseas and the Man Uniteds, who obviously we know are currently losing 2-0, which is wonderful? Are you looking at them, or are you looking up?
Personally, I am starting to look up a bit. I mean, you do have a bit of a concern when Chelsea knock 5 past West Ham, and you think, well, maybe getting a bit of form, but as long as we keep winning, they can't catch us. We're the masters of our own destiny on that front. If we don't get it finishing European places now, we only have ourselves to blame, essentially, because we've got ourselves into an incredible position. As you say, despite all the injuries, we had no right to be in this position, but they have. And it's a testament of the team, the coaches that we are. Can we catch Tottenham? We might. It depends what Tottenham do. It's hard to really read what they're going to do because they play in such a way that they could win a game 4-0 or they could lose a game 4-0 with this high line. If it works, it's great. If it's not, it can be a car crash. So, yeah, it's definitely possible. It just kind of depends as much as anything on what Tottenham managed to do, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. So, are we going to? Because you just spoke in a bit of a riddle there. It's like riddle me this, riddle me that between you two tonight. So,
Come on,
are we going to catch Tottenham?
Go on then, I'll say we will.
Ooh. What about you, Colin? Will we catch Tottenham? Sorry,
right,
something
okay.
keep.
Hold on a second. Wait a minute. Let's go through this, right? You're asking a great question, right? Tottenham's got Burnley. I genuinely, at home, I know Burnley's had a better away record this season than they have home, but let's be honest, Burnley's in a dogfight. I don't see Tottenham losing that game. Tottenham definitely get beat off Man City when they're at home. The Sheffield United one's a really, really interesting game because although Sheffield United are now relegated, they might do what we done. Can you remember when we battered Tottenham the last game of the season after we got relegated? It was. Yep. We battered them, wasn't it? Yep. Mm-hmm. Maybe Sheffield United ought to go out with a bit of a swan song and just say, right, come on then. Let's go for this. And they might go for it. And so has Tottenham got a chance of getting 3 points out of 9? Yeah, they've got a chance of getting 6 points. Definitely not going to get 9 out of 9. But Tottenham win 1, draw 1, lose 1, and we win every one. We go above them. Is that correct? I think that's right, isn't it? Yeah,
I've gone into league table questions without actually having league table ready to talk about. I was putting lovely fancy videos together more tonight, but
yeah, it is.
yeah,
He would go 65 points, and they would be on 64, and that could be the way it goes. So they might only get 4 points out of the last 3, and we might get 9 points. They're on 60, we're on 56. So yeah, we would. That's the way I look at it. Me personally, anyway.
Something else I saw as well. If we win all of our last 3 games, I think we only end up about 6 points behind last season's tally, and we'd have actually won more games than we won last season.
Wow.
Which baffled me when I saw that, and I thought, "Wow, hell, it's right."
I think what's scary though, Lee and Matthew, is how many injuries we've had this season. And I think somebody might have mentioned this in the comments, that if we'd had so many players hadn't been injured, where would we be as a team? I mean, I look at some of the points we've dropped this season. I know you shouldn't go back in time, but we are only in the same season. We are talking about this season. They look at the likes of the Luton game. That, to me, is a game we should never have lost, ever. But we did. But we've also won some games that we probably wouldn't have thought we would. But, yeah. Anyway, it's going to be interesting. No, we could finish 5th, but I'm sticking with 6th, and I'll be happy with that.
It's just, for me, it's just, it's been a really good weekend. It's a bang on Monday. Newcastle are scoring buckets of goals, which, by the way, I personally don't think is being talked about enough, because I think we watch matches week in, week out, and we don't actually take a step back sometimes to realise that this Newcastle team is scoring an absolutely ridiculous amount of goals. And yes, we've conceded way too many. And we haven't, if we hadn't conceded as many, this season would have looked a lot nicer. But you can say that about lots of things. If we didn't have the injuries, this season would have looked nicer. But the fact we are almost hitting the 80s for goals with 3 matches left, and there's no saying that we won't smash Brighton 3 or 4-0 on Saturday, because they're kind of on the holidays. I know they got a good result against Villa, but Villa had just got back from an exhausting, just off the back of that exhausting Europa Conference League semi-final. I don't think they were quite in the races. We could smash Brighton at home because the way they play. We could then go to Man United and win, as Palace are right now, pretty comfortably, and really take that game to them. They've got no fit centre-backs. We could be looking at scoring like almost 90 goals in a Premier League season in 3 matches' time, which is just incredible. And I'm going to come back, and this goes to anyone in the comments, and this is going to sound like a bit of a rant. All this hammers home to me is that anyone who was so fast this season, where we have been frustrated. We were frustrated against Luton and against Bournemouth and against Nottingham Forest on Boxing Day, against matches that we should probably be winning. But I just think certain fans, and I'm not saying anyone who's watching this live falls into this category now, or used to, certainly don't. But there was so many fans to just turn so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So quickly, and be like, the manager's lost the plot. What are we doing behind the scenes that's causing all these injuries? Which, again, in my opinion, is just a bit of a ridiculous. I've seen so many YouTube videos about, who's to blame for the injuries? Eddie Howe does have an intense style, but to suggest that we're doing things wrong behind the scenes so soon after getting fourth in the league and a cup final the year before, I just think let this lesson and the way this season has ended be a bit of a lesson. Eddie Howe's not always going to get it right. We will change our manager from time to time. But as Newcastle fans, let's keep a little bit of faith, because some of us have kept the faith, and the season is finishing so strong. So strong. Nobody looks like they can beat us at the moment from an attacking point of view, with Kraft at centre-back and Dan Burns slotting in as captain and Dubravka in net and Elliot Anderson probably playing more than he would have in a normal season and Longstaff playing more. I just think it's brilliant. The fact where we are in the league right now, the fact we're talking about can we catch Spurs, Lee, you're chucking stats at me that are making my pants wet about us almost having the same amount of points as last season. It's absolutely class. It's absolutely class. What I am going to do, I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball now. And if no one wants to come in, that's fine. I am going to open up the floor on this one. I am going to put the link for you to come and join for five minutes. I'm not going to be on too much longer. Anyone wants to dive in, we'll get your opinions. I am posting the link to join this chat in the open thing now. So you just click that link, come through, and jobs are good. And so if anyone wants to join, feel free. I will see you appear and we'll get your thoughts. I'll quickly run through some of these topics that we are talking about right now. But I've got a bit of an interesting finish. Before we wrap this show up, I've got a very, very interesting finish for my two guests who are on the stage tonight. New for lives, I am going to start testing the people who are on the live with something, if I can find my video, that I am liking to call...
How much do you not like? Game show nobody's talking about.
How much do you both not like? Right?
Not
the
much.
rules on this one are simple, ladies and gentlemen. You can play at home. I'm going to give you both a buzzer sound for some quick-fire questions, and this will be very short and sweet. Whoever has the most correct answers might eventually get a black and white banter hat at some point further down the line. I was going to hope that someone requested to be in who could also join this quiz, but everyone's been a little bit shy who's watching at home tonight. So just a reminder, the rules of this game are simple. How much do you know? Right. Colin, your buzzer is how's the bacon, did you say? So every time you think you know a correct answer, I want you to say how's the bacon, did you say? And you, Lee, I've had a brain fart on your buzzer noise. Your buzzer noise is going to be Mad Dog. Just nice and short, Mad Dog.
How's the bacon? I've got a long one.
You can have how's the bacon. It doesn't have to be how's the bacon, did you say? How's the bacon, Mad Dog. Right, first question. Again, I've got to try and hear the buzzers as quick as you can. Who was the last player to score a Premier League hat-trick for Newcastle?
How's the bacon?
Yeah. Oh, you need an answer. You can't be saying how's the bacon without an answer.
Is it Wilson?
How back are we going? I'm struggling. Like,
I'm going to give you both one more guess each.
Oh, how's the bacon? CC.
One guess, Lee.
he's never scored a hat-trick, has he?
I'm going to have to rush you. The audience has to get up to the tea tonight.
I'll say
Leon Best.
Rondon.
The correct answer, and the first one to get it in the comments, was Leslie. It was Jose Perez. Jose Perez. Next question. Buzzers at the ready. Alan Shearer scored his first competitive goal against who?
Mad Dog.
Go on then.
Leicester City.
How's the bacon? His first goal was scored against
On his career.
Arsenal.
No, his first competitive goal. These are all Newcastle questions. It's not.
You never said that. You never said that.
Who was it against? I thought it was Leicester.
I'll give you both a clue. It was a free kick.
I thought it was Leicester.
I'm going to have to rush you as the audience does have traffic to get through before they leave the quiz house.
Sunderland.
One guess, Lee.
Wimbledon.
So
Correct.
Yeah.
He's just
Right.
on the bloody screen.
Right, well, what I didn't mention at the start of the show is I do need a certain level of integrity and honesty from both contestants to not look too much at the comments that fly in with the answers because, you know, this might turn...
Honestly, I don't have the comments on, so it was genuinely looked up.
There you go. I believe Lee's a very honest man. Next question. Who did Newcastle last play in the Europa League? Who was their last fixture in the Europa League?
Mad Dog.
Yeah.
Benfica.
Correct.
Well done.
That is 2-0 to the Mad
I was meant
Dog.
to be at the game, but I was ill.
What was the score in the Premier League? I think this is going to be a quick fire question, so you better get ready with them buzzers, gentlemen. What was the score when we last won in the Premier League at Old Trafford?
3-0. Oh, no, that
That
I need a
dog.
buzzer.
1-0.
Correct.
Johan
And you
Kabay.
got the score wrong anyway, Mr. Cold Dog. Next, I'm going to wrap this up because, we could be here all night, but I do like to chuck a couple of quiz questions. And has anyone joined the chat? No one's joined, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, I put the link in. Someone should have joined. You're all
Come on,
so
Ian,
shy.
like to speak.
Right. Next question. What was the first match post-takeover?
Mad Dog. Tottenham.
Go on then.
Tottenham Hotspur all.
Correct. You are getting absolutely wiped to the floor
Well,
here, Cold Dog.
He beat me to it.
You've got to be quick on the buzzer. Last question. I'm going to wrap this one up. Hatem Ben Arfa's first Premier League goal was scored against who? It was an absolute worldie, by the way.
Everton.
Yeah.
Everton.
Correct. Everton. That is a clean sweep from Lee tonight. Clean sweep.
Hey, he knows, Lee. Don't ask me any questions like this because I never get them right. There's no point. He's done that because he wanted to embarrass us a little bit.
No. We started doing some quiz questions on Friday's match preview just by chance, based off some stats, and I really enjoyed them. And we ended up in a rabbit hole in the pub before Burnley on Saturday doing loads of different quiz questions. So it is going to be a mainstay. The guests are going to keep being different, so there will be different people taking part. But now it's time to get amongst some questions that have been asked. And I don't think there's actually been many tonight from this lovely audience. Before I wrap things up, let's go all the way back to the start. Hashtag BWB. Right, first one from Sumdu2626. Hashtag BWB. When do you think Minter will be ready for the squad? Oh, I'm assuming for anyone watching, he just means Minter. Just a slight typo there, Mr. Sumdu. Assuming you might be still in the chat, you might have had to disappear off. This is a funny one, and he's not a player that I'm choosing to talk about too much, and I'll let you give your thoughts. I know he's doing wonderfully well over in Holland, which is great to see. He's got a trophy in the cabinet, which is something he can tell everyone at Newcastle about. He's got a winner's medal, which is an unheard of thing in this part of the world. And he looks a very, very good player, and it's been a great loan move. But I personally don't see him as being the sort of player just yet who we should be bringing back in to just sit on the bench. Because I do think that right winger position will be something that Eddie Howe looks to strengthen. And I think why not ship him out again? He's still young. He can keep getting more experience, still improving. We know he's ours. But yeah, I'll put it over to you. I'll start with you, Lee, because we know he's doing very well over there. And he is one that's caught all of our eyes.
Yeah, he has done well. What I will say is the Dutch league isn't always the best barometer.
It is. You're correct.
Anthony did well in the Dutch league, and we'll say no more about that. As a winger. So, he's young. By all means, keep him on the books. I've seen some theory that they might even cash in on him. That was the whole reason they signed him, just to get him at a price and sell him on for a profit a couple of years' time.
Interesting.
But, for me, just keep him out on loan. If he maybe even in a better league, if possibly, or not to be too disrespectful to the Dutch league, but if he can do it again next season, then maybe it will be worth a go in the Premier League in a couple of years' time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Colin?
Very good point, this, Lee, what you've just said, because you never know. He's probably hit the type of league he's fantastically good at, and maybe he stays there, and it could be that Eddie has got an idea of a player he wants to bring in to the club from that league, and he could be the bargaining chip. Because is he going to make it in the Premiership? Because you're absolutely spot on. It's a completely different league, isn't it? As far as the strength of the players are concerned. So, but then again, don't we have to think, let's give him a go? I think it's an interesting question in the thing that I'm going to get right. Name me a Newcastle player went on loan to Darlow, went straight to the Newcastle squad. I would probably say that was a keeper in the name of Darlow. Called Darlow, wasn't it?
My guess to that question would have been Olivier Bernard. I thought he went to Darlow before he started playing quite well for us back in the Bobby Robson days, but I could be wrong.
Question. But maybe we've got to give him a chance, but we've got some strength in that area, so let's hope if he stays over there, they sell him and we get some. What the hell's he gone on about my hair for? I've just seen that. I just said mixed comment. This is greasy look, mate. Don't worry about it. It's not bald yet.
I haven't had many hashtag BWBs, but there has been some questions coming in that we didn't get answered. So I will share some on the screen, but please, it just makes my eyes so much easier to spot them, ladies and gents, when you do ask something. If it's a big question, I know some of these are about what we were talking about at the time. Here's a slight change in subject. I think this is just a general question. Slight change in subject, but Matty, are you going to be in the Irish Mags? Yeah, me and Colin actually met the gentleman from Irish Mags after the Sheffield United match. He came and said hello to his flag. Yes, he has mentioned me going on his. It's just we've never really chatted about it since. He's a penalty. Keith Wilson. Yeah, I'm going to need people to start chucking in the hashtag BWB to make this a little bit easier for me to spot questions. It is very difficult when that isn't at the start. I've always been a fan of Murphy. Have you ever seen anyone open their mouth as wide as Murphy? No, I have not.
Julia Roberts, I replied.
Right. Cold Dog's put a question on. Cold Dog's getting amongst the questions. What is your ideal finish at the end of this season? Well, I know we've kind of already chatted about that now. Ideal finish, again, get your answers in below as well, just before we wrap things up. Ideal finish for me is anywhere that involves European football, and I know that's maybe an on-the-fence answer, Colin. It might be. But for me, with everything we've gone through, if you'd have told me 3 months ago that European football would have looked as strong possibility as now with us chasing down Tottenham, I would have been dancing in the street like that guy was in St. James's last week. So, yeah, anywhere inside the top 7 for me. Yeah, exactly. What about you, Lee?
Well, if we're talking ideal, obviously 5th, but I'd happily take any European football. I've seen a theory that it might be better to do the Conference League because there's a better chance for winning it. But for me, you want to be as high as you can, so Europa League for me, preferably. But the Conference League.
Yeah, I'm sticking with 6th. I really am. Man United to finish 8th and we finish 6th. That'll do me.
Man United had another goal ruled out.
Have they? Have you noticed something, Matthew? I like what something similar to what you talked about before. The mighty win. Surely that man has shown his age with a great era of football. Eddie Howe has worked miracles. I'd love to know who the Eddie Howe Brigade think could have done any better job. And honestly, I don't think anybody could have done a better job than what him and Tyndall's done.
Where is that comment at? I'm trying to dig up them. I wasn't even aware that the mighty win was in. There he is. I know the mighty win. Where's he at? Spoiled my choice tonight. Black and white banter, Palace or snooker. I tell you what, you can have this streaming. You can have the snooker on your iPad if you've got one, and then you can just have the Palace game. It sounds like it's wrapped up. This has always got to be the priority. Yes, it's nice to have you in the building. It doesn't look like any more questions are coming in. Won the bet with the lads from Darlington. As long as we finish above Man U. Great show tonight. Oh, thank you very much, Lee. I appreciate that. Yes, Lee makes a very good point. Hit that like button just before you go. It does mean the world to me. And I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I am enjoying these more and more. I am trying to prep more and more, as I've tried to there. I do want to bring in a couple of new things. I do want people to start joining us a little bit more off the cuff. Do not be scared. I will be nice. I will ease you in softly. I won't throw you into the lions, then I promise. But yeah, go and enjoy the rest of your week, Newcastle fans. I'll be doing a match preview, one of these on Friday before the Brighton game. Newcastle United have just won by 4-1. It's bank holiday Monday. Crystal Palace are absolutely smashing that awful bunch of manx up the road. Life is good. I'm going to Australia in less than 2 weeks to go and follow the man.
I am as well. I'm going as well.
This man, in case I'm pointing the wrong way, this man on the screen is coming with me as well. I just, I try not to think about that because I feel like he's going to. I think you and me might come to blows after the first 5 minutes, Colin. But of course, we're going to be taking you with us the whole step of the way. Life is good, Newcastle fans. Thank you very much for tuning in and whack that like button before you go. Eddie Howe's Mags have got European football in our own hands, and it's a great time to be alive. I'll see you on the next one. Ta-da!